Coronavirus sparked panic around the world, but it seems China is getting to grips with the disease. The country registered less than 20 new cases yesterday. That's the lowest level since the outbreak began. Let's explore the implications then. ENCA's Michael MARILLIER joining me for a conversation on that. Part of the strategy, Michael, was to place under quarantine millions of people, in cities like Wuhan. The question then, because we're starting to see the effects, and you heard the Director General there of the WHO praising China's response, should other countries be following suit by way of these quarantine measures?
Well, Italy has already taken that particular measure, as of course Italy really is the epicenter of the outbreak in Europe, so perhaps some warning signs for the rest of the world. But I want to focus very quickly on how the virus has spread outside of China. So let's take a quick look at those numbers, Tula. So this is what's called what we're calling the corona curve. So this is really the number of new cases, Tula, on a daily basis that have been registered. And just take a look at how it was spreading at the beginning of February. Just over 5-6 weeks ago, we were really getting maybe 10, 15 new cases per day outside of China. Look at the spike, Tulis, over the last few weeks. We're now sitting at close to 4,000 new cases outside of China on a daily basis. In fact, we hit that number just earlier this week. So this just gives you a sense of the time scale, how quickly the spread of this virus has actually happened. And let's just put it into perspective as we focus on the numbers outside of China. As I mentioned, now looking at about 3,950 new cases. That was on Monday this week. And that is compared to China, the epicenter of the outbreak, which had just 19 new cases on Monday. And of course, that was the lowest level that we have seen since this outbreak began to us almost 2 months ago. So in terms of the spread, it seems like 5 to 6 weeks has been the crucial number. And of course, the question now, how are officials going to try and bring those numbers down to the levels that we're seeing in China itself?
So it seems the spread is gaining momentum outside of China, whereas inside China it's actually slowing down and they're reversing the spread of this virus. So we're talking about 4,000 new cases every day around the world outside of China. So it makes you wonder then how long it would take for us to reverse that, because all effort is about, curbing the spread and getting us back to 0 cases. How long would it take? Exactly.
So let's focus very quickly on another corona curve, as we are calling it. So what we've done here is we've looked at how the number of new cases has actually declined in China. And about a month ago, they were at a very similar place compared to the rest of the world. So on the 5th of February, Tulis, they registered almost 4,000 new cases on a daily basis. But as you can see, that quarantine process seems to have had quite an effect. The numbers have dropped steadily over the past month. So if we take a look at some of the key dates, Tulis, for example, the 12th of February, it had dropped to 2,000 cases. A week later, it had dropped below 1,000 cases. On the 7th of March, we reached 100 cases. And ultimately, Tulis, on the 10th, that was yesterday, hitting a record low of 19 cases. So it would seem what China is doing has paid dividends. But this is important to us. I spoke to a virologist based in South Africa a little bit earlier, and he's warned that we must be careful of comparisons with China and the rest of the world. Remember, China has a single leader and a single party calling the shots. This outbreak in the rest of the world involves more than 100 countries. That means 100 leaders having to coordinate their efforts to fight the virus. It might not be as simple as it sounds.
Various standards about civil liberties, etc. It gets really complicated.
Indeed.
But it's an impressive graph, that you must say. All right, Michael, thank you so much for that. That's Michael MARILLIER. He's been watching the numbers and what he's calling the corona curve to see how it has been spreading over the last few weeks and how the curve is actually turning in China.